Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 2223. The topic is Q&A, and the title is Strength Workouts in Under 60 Minutes. A former client of mine, and he's also a jiu-jitsu combat instructor for the military, sent the following topic. Hey Rob, so these days I have about 30 to 45 minutes to train. I've been thinking of working up to a triple and then taking 75% of that and doing back down sets. I have Prilepin's chart and it says 18 reps are good, but 12 to 24 reps can work. So I'm stuck in thinking of doing 4x6, so 4 sets of 6 reps for the back down sets, or just do 6 sets of 3 reps and make each rep explosive. Also, if I get the training down to 30 minutes, I'll be able to train probably 6 days a week. So I could do 2 variations per lift for each week. Curious on your thoughts. So I want to go through what my response was and then kind of expanded thoughts on how you can apply the concepts in today's podcast to your training if you're looking to create great strength workouts in under 60 minutes. First, the thing he mentioned there was Prilepin's chart. That was, it's essentially actually for Olympic lifting, but it's modified and has been used in powerlifting-based training as a general guide for appropriate volume. There are people who, follow it kind of to a T. There are people who reference it, and there are people who think it's worthless. So I have used it when I was younger in my career for programming for powerlifting as a gauge, and then started to modify just what I saw each person needing. And now I can't even tell you where what I recommend falls within Prilepin's chart, because what I recommend for all my clients is different and personalized to each of them. So it might be high in the range, low in the range, nothing to do with the range. I kind of gauge it and adjust it how they need per program. So I renew my programs for my clients every 4 weeks. And there's a lot of benefits to that. It's a lot more work for me than most trainers. Most trainers don't do that frequently. However, I like it. There's a lot of benefits to it. I'd rather do the extra work, keep everybody safe and healthy and happy and making great progress. So if you heard me say Prilepin's chart, that's what he was referring to. Now, this can be some of the challenge if you're noticing he's wondering, do I work up to a top triple in my workouts? Well, why is 3 reps any better than 2 reps? Or is it not as good as maybe 4 reps? You may hear programs like 5x5 or when there's 3-5-1. You might hear a lot of numbers going around. And typically that's going to be in reference to the percentage of your max that you're using for that lift variation. So if you're doing a front squat compared to a competition back squat, your 1 rep max on the front squat is going to be a lot less. So your percentage of your 1 rep max would be the same between the 2 lifts. Say you're aiming for 5 reps at 80%, but the weight you use is going to be different. So the percentages that you'll hear people apply in strength training should be applied per movement. So whatever the 1 rep max of that movement is, that would be 80%, not, the 80% of my back squat is what do I apply to my front squat. So percentages should follow the variation that you're doing. It's the percentage of that variation, not percentage of your competition lift. So with some of that out of the way, and now we kind of have an idea of what's going on, I want to share what my response was and then some thoughts on how you can modify this and apply it for yourself. So I said, hey, and then his name. You can get great results in 30 to 45 minutes. You want to include stretching and dynamic warm-ups as part of the warm-ups for the main lift. Then, for the main lift, you can follow this pattern. Now, I'm going to go through and say this pattern, but you don't need to write all this down. I'm going to continue and kind of expand on it here in a second. But what I wanted them to do is week 1, use 80%, week 2, 84%, week 3, 88%, and week 4, 92%. The big takeaway is we're starting with something lighter into something heavier. Now, how light do we go? I typically don't go lower than 80% and consider that to be strength work. Anything under 80% is going to be more so just technique practice. You're not going to get much of a strength development out of that. Now, you can push that to max intensity, but it doesn't mean that the resulting adaptation will be strength-based. It's more so probably going to be muscular endurance, cardiovascular-based, rather than actual strength-based. So I wanted him to go 80, 84, 88, 92. Now, the percentages, after I rate some other things, one of the things I wrote was, for the percentages, you can range plus or minus 2% depending on how you feel that day. So the 80% is actually anywhere from 78 to 82. The 84% is actually anywhere from 82 to 86%. So we have a little bit of a range, and this is important to do because how you feel each day will not feel the same. So your 100% one day is not the same 100% you have another day. We definitely don't have 100% of ourselves to give in relative to whatever the conditions were for our best all-time max. So maybe his best back squat is 500 pounds, but he did that on a Saturday. He had a whole bunch of food on Friday, got 9 hours of sleep, got to train at whatever pace he wanted, whatever warm-up length he wanted, and he hit a 500-pound squat on Saturday. If those aren't the same conditions that we have in every single workout, then his 1 rep max of 500 pounds isn't going to be true for how he feels whenever his rest periods have to be shorter, when he has less sleep, when he has less food, when he has more stress going on in life. So it's necessary that when we set parameters of what weight to use, that we have ranges built in, so that way we can modify what we do that day expectation-wise based on how we're going to feel that day, knowing that we don't always feel the same every day. So that's why we would have percentages that have ranges. So it might be, again, like I said, 84%, but it's actually plus or minus 2%, and he can modify that based on how he feels. We also do modifications with other parameters such as rep ranges. So for each week, what I have him do, well, weeks 1, 2, 3, is week 1, we said the goal was 80%. He's going to do 3 sets of 4 to 5 reps. So we know he actually has the parameters to be within 78 to 82%, and he can do anywhere from 4 to 5 reps on each working set. That's going to give him a lot of leeway to play with how he feels that day, to maximize his intensity and be able to achieve his goal and not have a goal in mind that's unachievable based on outside parameters that he can't control. He's going to then feel like a failure, or he's going to get hurt trying to push to that maximal intensity that his body just isn't, available to do that day. So this is how we stave off small acute injuries that can add up over time, and or mental injuries from failing lifts or failing to meet a volume demand that we thought we could do that day. So we want to have some fail safes in place to be able to adjust for how we're going to feel. So we have percentage plus or minus 2%, and then like we said is 3 sets of 4 to 5 reps. He should definitely be able to do 4 to 5 reps between 78 to 82%. If he fails, he can only do say like 2 reps or 3 reps. It would probably have to be a really bad day, sleep-wise, nervous system-wise, stress-wise, or he's estimating his 1 rep max to be higher than what it really is. So if you're estimating your 1 rep max, say off of a 405 pound squat, but that looked like absolute crap, it was horrible technique, you actually maybe barely hit parallel. We don't want to take a 1 rep max number that was poor quality or a once in a blue moon type number. We want it to be something that we're confident that most days we would be able to hit that number. So maybe 405 was your like full send, all out, everything you could do, but it looked like crap and you almost died. We're not going to use 405 then. Let's bring that down 5% maybe. So let's go with like maybe 385 and consider that a 1 rep max, knowing that we probably could do that clean rather than a 405, which looked like crap. If it looked like crap, we're going to feel like crap and the training's going to be crap. So that would be a way to approach it. Now, after he does 3 sets of 4 to 5 reps, I want him to do 1 set with that same weight to good form failure, to do as many reps as he can. What this is helpful with is, as I'm prescribing a workout for somebody, I can give parameters that make sense in most cases, in most scenarios, for most people. But We want the best. We don't want what's probably going to be the best. We want the absolute best. So having that last set where he can go to good form failure gives him the opportunity to, okay, maybe he was conservative in the first 3 sets. He wanted to make sure he worked on technique. He wanted to make sure he was safe. And now he gets to the end of those 3 sets and he's like, oh man, I got a little more energy in me. Maybe I can push for 6 or 7 reps. Or maybe he gets the 3 sets of 4 to 5 reps. He feels like crap and he's like, oh my gosh, like I overextended myself. Let me just do a single or a double. Let me just reconfirm positive technique, reconfirm my confidence with being able to at least control and move the weight well. So he can modify his reps in that last set to adjust for whatever he might need best for that day to maximize what he has to give that day. Then week 2 with the 84% goal, again, remember that's plus or minus 2%. We have 3 sets of 3 to 4 reps and then 1 set to good form failure. Week 3 is the 88%, plus or minus 2%. He has 3 sets of 2 to 3 reps with 1 set to good form failure. And then week 4, we're doing 92%, and we're just going to do 1 set to good form failure. What's helpful with this is there's no pre-exhaust from the sets beforehand. And at 92%, if you can only do 1 rep, you're probably overestimating what your 1 rep max is. You can then know to adjust that for the next 4-week cycle. If you can do 2 reps, you're probably on point with where your 1 rep max is, theoretically. That kind of confirms it. But at 92%, if you can do 3 reps or even 4 reps or somehow 5 reps, then you know that it's likely your 1 rep max strength has increased, and it might be good in the next 4-week program to maybe retest that. So this kind of gives us on week 4 some feedback on how our progression is coming along without needing to do a 1 rep max all the time to test that, which is a high risk and high CNS debt. So this is a more controlled and safe way to check our progress by just simply using a high percentage and doing 1 set to good form failure. Now, the final recommendation I gave him was if you have any time at the end of the workouts, you want to add some free weight movements, like free weight movements for accessories. For squat and deadlift, it would be examples like walking lunges, step-ups, things that are unilateral are very good, unilateral compound movements. For bench press, you want to do some dumbbell presses, maybe some rows, some pull-ups. You want to do something for the push muscles and something for the pull muscles. That's a compound movement and requires some stabilization and bracing. This is going to help us hit the muscles that maybe hide in the main lift variations. So that's the overall structure that we would use if we're trying to create great strength training workouts in under 60 minutes. Number 1 is to do stretch and dynamic warm-ups efficiently and blend those with the warm-ups for your main movement. Then, a tip I didn't mention yet, is in your main movement variations, it's helpful to use underloaded variations. Underloaded variations are movement variations, like main lift variations, that your max attempt, the max weight that you can move on that variation is less than what you could do with the standard competition variation. So for example, a front squat compared to your competition squat. You're not going to be able to squat your 1 rep max in a competition squat and your front squat. So therefore in training, you're going to maximize your intensity. You can push every single set to good form failure, but the weight load you're going to use is less than your normal competition lift. This is going to help you require less warm-ups. This is going to reduce injury risk, and it's going to reduce the amount of time that you need to complete your workout. So some variations we have for squats, there's pause squats. You can also do front squats or zombie squats, and then you also have different barbells. You can switch to different barbells. Maybe a safety squat bar is a harder variation for you as opposed to a normal competition squat. Bench press, there's paused presses. There's also Larson presses where you take away your leg stabilization, leg drive. And then Spoto presses where you have to pause the bar about an inch off your chest at the bottom. And that's a really good way to force upper back bracing and tightness and a little more kind of tricep dominant development. Then for deadlift, you have paused off the floor. You just drive it about 2 inches off the floor, stop, and then finish the rep. Those are awful, but they're great for developing lat strength, core bracing, and positional control and awareness as you come off the floor, so that way you can improve your lockout. And then also there's eggshell deadlifts and then no-touch deficits. No-touch deficits would be like you stand on a bumper plate, something like, say, 2 inches. You drive the first deadlift off the ground like you normally would, but then the remaining deadlifts, you come really close to the ground, but you never actually touch the ground. So that's a no-touch deficit deadlift. Those, again, are going to be harder time under tension, harder positional control. So it's going to limit the weight load you can use, but you can still push maximal intensity and still get maximal CNS and kind of strength development adaptation. Another tip we have is to use timers for your rest periods. Do not just rest based on how you feel. You'll take way too damn long. The workout will drag on forever. So you want to set a timer. I actually use the timer function on my phone, and I usually set my timer in bodybuilding workouts for about 2 to 3 minutes, in strength-based workouts usually between 3 to 5 minutes. And then for accessories, if you're going to do anything after the main lift, again, you want to do something simple that limits setup time. You want to use minimal equipment, be able to get right into something, right out of something, and you want to focus on unilateral or stability demanding compound movements. And if you can, you want to focus on known weaknesses of the main lifts rather than strengths. Let the main lift develop the strength, let the accessories develop the weaknesses. Awesome. So an example workout, if you want to kind of think one through, a good warm-up circuit, preparation circuit, would be dead bug floor slides. And you can look up all these names on YouTube. It works on core bracing and breathing, just like you would have to brace and breathe under a barbell for squats. And then also works on shoulder external rotation to help you warm up your shoulders and prep your shoulders for a low bar or back squat kind of position. You have clamshell raises, which are glute contractions, quote-unquote activation. Then hip internal, external rotators are warmed up and moved within that movement. And then again, it continues core bracing. Then you can do Cossack squats up on your feet. This stretches the adductors, the glutes, the hamstrings. It continues core bracing. And then you would actually do your barbell warm-ups. So you would do a set of the dead bug floor slides, a set of the clamshell raises, a set of the Cossack squats, and then maybe the first set of squatting with just a barbell. Then you go back to dead bug floor slides, back to clamshell raises, then back to Cossack squats, and then maybe you go up to 95 pounds or 135 on the barbell. So you do those for 3 to 4 rounds in between the first 3 to 4 warm-up sets of the main lift. Main lift variation for squats, if you want to focus on, say, leg strength, you can do camber bar squats. If you want to focus on positioning control, trying to control your position, especially through the descent of the squat, you can use slowed eccentric paused squats. They're great for that. If you want to focus on quad development, zombie squats are fantastic, but they're miserable. But you can do paused zombie squats or paused front squats. So there's a lot of variation possibilities there. And then for additions at the end, one that I used in a recent workout for myself was dumbbell drop set walking lunges. So I did a set of, I think it was like 12 steps down, 12 steps back with 50-pound dumbbells. Then did 12 steps down, 12 steps back with 25-pound dumbbells. And then body weight down and back twice. And then I was done. So very quick. I mean, you're done with that in under 4 minutes, and you got some accessories in, you got something in, and it's nice and quick and easy, but still very effective. So these are some concepts we can use, and our overall mindset and approach to creating great strength-based workouts in under 60 minutes. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or any requests for podcasts, like this client did, you can always shoot me an email at brutalirongym@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com, and contact us there. Awesome. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, which is where I would write programs for you, help you figure out your nutrition, help you figure out your training for whatever your goal is, whatever your schedule, whatever your equipment, whatever you need to make it work. You can learn more about those services on our website. Right now, I'm doing the pricing of $200 per month with no contracts. I will control your nutrition and your training. We'll do weekly check-ins, everything under the sink. Everything you need for $200 a month. I was able to change my work schedule around, so I opened up some new positions, and I'm excited to be able to work with more people. If you have any questions or anything, just shoot me an email, brittleinongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. If you like the podcast, you can donate to support the podcast on our website, or you can buy your supplements from Nutricost.com. I've been buying my supplements from them for over 10 years. You can use the code BRUTALIRON10 for a 10% discount, and then we get a 10% commission on whatever you spend. So it's a great way to give back to the podcast, but get great supplements at a great discount. If you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.